Hey, hi everyone. Welcome to another episode of E-Coffee with Experts. Today we have a special guest. We have William, who is a badass marketer and a badass CEO at Hiilite with us. Hey, William.
Hello. Thank you for having me.
Great. William, before we move any forward and get into the questions, why don't you talk us through your journey so far? How did you land up in the digital marketing space? How you started Hiilite? What were the initial challenges? And then we'll take it forward from there on.
I feel like I could go on for hours about this. You know what? The journey to it was my first degree is actually in engineering, and I have an IT background and owned an IT company before. And at one point, when doing IT, we had to build a site because everyone who wants to grow their business starts to start doing some advertising. But I would have people come in and they're like, "We like your site. You work with computers. Can you make me a website?" And in the growth phase, I think a lot of entrepreneurs refuse to say no to things. So we're like, okay, we can do this. And we started scaling that side of the business as we were scaling the IT side of the business. And we hired a developer and then a designer. And then it was like this organic growth. And at one point I woke up, I remember this very distinctly. I woke up one morning and it was a 6 a.m. call to someone tell me about their servers. And I'm like, I just don't think I care about this anymore. And I'm like, you know what? I think I'm good. I'm done with IT. And I'm ready to move on to really focus. And this was almost 2 decades ago now, to really focus on the marketing side. There was a couple other things we ended up getting into. When the iPhone came out, we started developing some games. So we had a portfolio of games and apps in the App Store. And I remember having this conversation with a marketer, and they mentioned it was a very stark competitive argument against what my philosophy was at the time, which was the general kind of engineering philosophy, which was engineers rule the world. And so building things, if you build it, they will come, that kind of mantra. And then they're like, it's wrong. And they're like, if you don't understand who you're building it for, and they were right. I was wrong. I was very wrong. You can build things all day long and you can spend so much time building whatever you want. But if no one knows about it, no one actually, if you don't understand what the needs are, and that kind of made this further pivot into, okay, you know what? There's a lot to this that needs to be explored. I ended up doing my MBA. Now I'm doing my PhD on data-driven decision-making and AI and all of these things and strategic tactics and dynamic capabilities and growth hacking. So there's a whole bunch there. But I guess to answer your question more directly, it's been the journey of a lifetime. It's been absolutely fantastic to be able to not only apply some of the lessons that we've taken over the years and help other businesses address some of these issues, but also learn about things that are so interesting and obscure, or potentially it's like, how do we diagnose some of these problems? And then how do we help entrepreneurs work through them?
Lovely. That is quite a techie to marketeer's transition, I would say.
I'm still a geek through and through. Make no mistake about that. I'm a numbers person. And I feel like that was actually one of our differentiating points. Yeah.
Great. And from that to now, William, Hiilite has become a renowned agency. So can you paint a picture of the initial spark, the challenges you faced in those early days as an agency owner who have been through it? We all know that keeping the lights on initially is a difficult ball game altogether. And from those early days, those challenges to the turning point that kind of solidifies Hiilite's success trajectory.
You know what? We were, I think, very much at the forefront of these digital marketing partnerships and SEO partnerships with clients. We used to do a lot of one-off work like websites or campaigns or designs or logos or brands. But I remember very specifically, we started getting into kind of these ongoing executions, and we're like, you know what? Creating a repeatable, recurring revenue stream would be a really good idea. And we did this almost 20 years ago. But I remember sitting down with this client at the end of the first year, and we're like, okay, here's some of the metrics. Here's like what we're seeing. What are the metrics? And I think we lacked a lot of confidence at that point. So we didn't ask about revenue and profitability. And a lot of businesses held those cards close to their chest. But at the end of that first year, we're like, okay, here's what we've seen. And it was a monthly organic traffic growth of 300%. So where you were a year ago, amount of organic traffic we've scaled that up by 300%. And we're like, what's the revenue look like? And they're like, we've more than tripled our revenue. And we're like, okay, this is interesting. And so now we have an understanding of what the correlation is between the organic traffic that we're providing and then the revenue that the client is actually getting.
Then, it always makes so much of sense to have a safe, secure, recurring subscription or recurring payment-based model with clients versus those one-off hits here and there. From that, have you said no to a client for anything that you feel is not something you are really good at, or you felt that the client does not really need that at that particular moment?
Absolutely. You know what? I think that's I think that's actually gotten us a number of really long-term relationships and long-term clients. I remember there's so many of them that like kind of startups or where they're just forming the idea of something, and they'll come in and say, "Hey, look, I've got $5,000, and can you help us?" And I looked at them like, "Okay, what have you done so far? Where are you at? Are you registered? Are you incorporated? Are you the business side?" But I'm like, did you verify? Is there a product market fit? Did you actually verify whether what you're doing is what people want? Have you created a social media account? Do you have the diffusion of innovation curve? Do you have those innovators or early adopters? Do you know who they are? And they're like, no, none of these things. I'm like, you know what? It doesn't make sense. It doesn't make sense for us to take your money because we can build a fantastic brand, but I don't think you're ready for it. And at that point, I'm like, hey, look, Squarespace is a really good place to go, and you can build something that'll get you 80% of the way there in 20% of the effort or the cost, or Wix or Square or Shopify or whatever else. I'm like, do that testing first, because if you go down this path and you start making this investment, unless you absolutely love it and are sure that this is what you want to be doing, test that first, verify that first. So yes, tons of people have said no to.
Lovely. And it's so important to educate customers while trying to run your own show as well. William, branding, we all know it goes beyond logos and taglines. While a lot of businesses feel it is just about that, we as marketers know it is way beyond just logos and taglines. So how do you help your clients create immersive and meaningful brand experiences that kind of foster deeper customer connections and drive loyalty at the same time?
That's a really good question. I think the better that clients understand this, and ultimately experience is the best teacher, and maybe pain is the best teacher. We've had clients, and we've parted ways with clients where we're like, hey, look, they want us to just build the logo. Look, we just build the logo, launch the website, call it a day. I'm like, look, if that's what you want to do, go to Wix, go to Squarespace, save yourself the money, but you're not going to be a good client with us. But for businesses that, I remember initially we were more forceful about this in the sense that we would do the legwork and help these brands and help these companies develop the brand, but then start thinking about what's the story? Like, how does this tie into your values, about who you are, about your customer and your personas? And so all of these things. And for those clients, and with a few of them, we actually parted ways just because we're like, here's the next recommendation, but we're like, hey, fared thee well. And a number of them have come back and they're like, okay, we didn't understand the value of what you were saying until we had to recruit a larger team because we had to grow. And having core values and vision and mission and kind of that kind of alignment, we now get it. We now get that marketing is more than just a sales and kind of revenue activity. When done well, I always talk about these 3 R's, which is revenue, recruitment, and retention. Like revenue is one component, but you can't scale a business on revenue growth alone. At some point, you're going to need to recruit people. And if your brand is just sell and you've done nothing to talk about culture or about, it's going to be impossible. It's going to be impossible to recruit people to your business if all you're known for is discount widgets, as opposed to, hey, here's the great vision behind our company, and here's what we're. So I feel like I've gone off on a tangent, but
no, that's fine.
Interesting question.
Great. That is so relatable when you said, because we also meet with a lot of clients wherein we as marketers just feel about us that it's just about those traffic numbers, get our phones ringing, and we are done with you. But while we do those discovery sessions, while we ask, why did you start what you have started in the first place, right? You started for something. You had some mission, some thought that this is what I'm going to do with my business. This is the problem statement I've come out to solve. So if you ask these questions, there has been a lot of times wherein the founders, the CEOs, the board people, they were taken aback. Why are these guys asking me why I started my business? What problem did I start? Did I start my business to resolve that this is the problem which exists? I have a solution for it, and all of that. So we asked those questions, and a lot of business owners, they were taken aback that as a marketing agency, why are you asking these questions? They did not really understand the importance of it, because our intention was to build a brand out of it with their own mission and vision statement. So they went back to the drawing boards and really took the time, came back with the answers to our questions. So has it happened with you as well, wherein you ask these questions and they feel that, okay, we just were speaking with William or Highlight to understand revenue numbers, marketing numbers, traffic, and all that.
You know what? We ask a lot of questions when we initially meet for a discovery with a client, and some of them end up being disqualifying questions. And we're like, there's specific things that I look for, and I'm like, this is not going to be a good fit. And maybe this is through experience and having learned this lesson painfully a few times. If a client doesn't want to tell you about why they're doing what they're doing, or what their vision for the business is, or one of the questions I ask is, where is your business in 5 or 10 years? What's the vision? Where's this going? And sometimes this is a money-making exercise, or this is just the thing I'm doing on the side. Sometimes I can drill down into that and see, okay, this person either isn't ready or doesn't fully understand what they're getting themselves into. Or oftentimes it's like, you can identify that this person is going to take shortcuts, and they're going to, it's like, they're not going to do the kind of work that's required to grow a brand, to grow a company. In which case, why would we want the stress of working with someone who looks at us as a commodity service provider, as like just leads, only to know that whether it's in 6 months or 2 years, they're going to crater. I wish you all the best, and I hope your business does well. And I'm happy to cheer for you from the sidelines, but we're definitely not going to be a good fit. And yeah, I've maybe this is the badass component. I think I've lost some potential friends as a result of challenging them too hard. Where like I've had a couple of people, this was many years ago, they storm out and they're like, I don't want to work with Will. Like, yeah, perfect. So anyway.
All right. William, with your background in technology and understanding of consumer behavior, how do you see AI and machine learning reshaping the future of strategic marketing or our industry at large? And how are using AI or machine learning in your day-to-day life, or how is your team using it at Hiilite?
We are so bought in. The moment ChatGPT came out, and even before that, we were into a lot of this. My first degree is in engineering, and so I'm fundamentally a numbers person. I love spreadsheets. I love massive amounts of data, and I'm a huge fan of trying to identify trends and kind of opportunities within it. But all of a sudden, you have a tool that comes in, and you can start asking questions and connecting specific in a far more accessible way. There's so much stuff that I don't identify that you can easily ask in a query or kind of identify from a chart in Excel or whatever else. This technology, any kind of technology, like when harnessed properly, has the potential to not only give us more meaningful and deeper insights, but help arrive at those insights so much quicker, and help make those accessible to more people. We have a lot of junior marketers who join us, and it's just like being able to help get them to accelerate their writing, their campaigns, or be able to ask questions that they may not fully want to ask someone. So there's a whole bunch of ways that not only does it accelerate and enable and really inform really good work, I think.
Lovely. And William, you guys have experienced your impressive growth, right? So what are your strategy of scaling the business while maintaining the core values? And any particular strategy that might have worked wonders for you guys?
Yeah. In the first few years, I remember we doubled revenue for the first 5 years of operations, and it was, and we grew drastically. And it was so many lessons from that, because there's a point at which that kind of stopped. And we're like, okay, I ended up having children, and I realized how much of that was to do with how much effort and how much time I've spent. And it was a really good lesson. And that's okay. How do we make sure that the people who come and go learn as much as possible and are also aligned with the kind of the driving, kind of the guiding light that we've identified, where we want to be? And so for this is a very simple kind of in the business world or marketing world, vision, mission statement, core values, all of those, making sure that they're so clearly defined, clearly shown, and also not something that lives on a spreadsheet somewhere, but rather is something that's lived and rewarded. And so a lot of our culture building exercise, we have a weekly huddle. We have team check-ins every day for different departments. We have a weekly lunch. We have an award, and all of those are tied into our vision, our values. We use a system to identify and reward when someone lives our values. We use a system called Bonusly. I'm not sure if you've seen it, but where we actually have anyway. So there's a whole bunch of things that those values need to be lived and defined and lived. There was an interesting, I've interfaced with so many CEOs and so many, and sometimes they get annoyed. They're like, I've said all of these things. It's like, the most concise answer I've ever heard to this is CEO should sometimes be called the chief reminding officer. Like, you can't tell people enough about what your values are. Like for us, we want to be the best, most badass agency in the world. And that helps qualify and disqualify people who want to work with us and also who want to actually engage with us. If you're going to half-ass your role, you're not going to want to be surrounded with people who are ambitiously trying to drive and educate themselves and try to push themselves to be the best marketers in the world. So
lovely. On that note, William, what are some of the tips which you want to give to our listeners, especially folks who are trying to make a mark in the digital marketing space or trying to venture into our space of having their own agencies or at that stage of their life? What are the 3 things you want to tell them?
You know what? 3 things, easy. First one, always be curious. There's so much stuff that's happening out there. And I've seen so many people get stuck on, I don't want to do this. I don't want to be on this platform or this social media or whatever. Be curious. There's something that you can learn from not only every platform, every tool, but every person you interface with. There is stuff that would probably transform my business fundamentally. I just don't know what that is. And I don't know what the question that gets that out of you specifically. So that to me is like one of them is like, how do I learn from you? What's going to help me? Or what insights, what things have you learned? What mistakes have you made that would actually help me or potentially the clients that we've interfaced with? So 1, definitely be inquisitive. 2, value of collaboration. And I can't stress enough. I think we pay lip service to collaboration so much. Yeah, sure, you and I are going to work together and there's an integrative, whatever. But until you're actually honest about where some of the frustrations are, what some of the gains are, like collaboration also relies on like authenticity and transparency and honesty. And I think so many people dress this up. I think it's maybe a Western thing, but hey, how are you doing? Great. What does that mean? Nothing, right? As collaboration. And the last one, I could give you 5, but
go ahead.
I'm going to say, sure, in that case, fun. If what you're doing isn't fun, you're going to half-ass it. You're not going to want to do it. And that could mean the clients that you're working with. That could mean the space that you're in, the tools that you're using, whatever that is. If you're not having fun, you're not going to actually strive to get better at it. We have 5 core values, and this is fundamentally where I'm going with this. Like what I believe is very much tied into what we live as an agency. So anyway, those are the top 3. I think there was one that's be a badass and actually tell people honestly. And that one was there specifically because
I was waiting for you to say that.
Oh, you know what? We occasionally come across clients who are just difficult to work with or don't see a vision or maybe sold us kind of a vision that they're not fully on board with. I'll be the first person to fire them. Happy to do it. And I'm happy to protect the team. So if a client comes with a complaint, sometimes it's legitimate. No, I'll definitely hear it out. But if it's not a good fit, let it go, man. Just like it's not worth it. I don't care how much money they're giving you. It's just not worth it. Yeah. Like however you define be a badass, do that. So.
Perfect. Lovely, William. But before we let you go, I would like to play a quick rapid fire. I hope you're game for it. You would be.
I'm ready. Go, sir.
Great. Your last Google search, William.
Ooh, that's a good question. I should actually look this up. You know what? I drove my kids to school this morning and it was the very last Google search is what was the first building in the world ever? This is from my son, Max, who's 5 years old. What's the first building built in the world ever? I think is verbatim what it was.
That was a good one. Your celebrity crush.
Celebrity crush. Ooh, that's a good one. I'm gonna show my age a little bit here, but I feel like there are many. You know what? No, Well, I'm not even sure I can give you an answer for this one. Give me 1 second to think about that. Ask your next question. I'll come back to the celebrity crush one.
All right, moving on. What did you do with your first paycheck, William?
Oh, I reinvested it. I think I know people who have no idea what they want to do with their lives until they whatever. I knew since the age of 11. I know I can pinpoint the exact moment where I'm like, I want to be in business. And that's driven so much as far as, so I think my first real paycheck was actually into equipment, computer. I remember it was a Pentium 166. I remember this so clearly, and it was fully overkill, but I played a ton of games on it, and I ended up developing a huge passion for tech. So yeah, I remember very well. It was so reinvestment fully set me on a trajectory where I am into geekdom.
All right. Okay, the last one before we go back to your crush. All right. Where do you find William on a Friday evening post work?
Where do you find me? Okay, you know what? The easy answer is I have kids, and work is only there to enable time. I love spending time with my kids. I'm home 5 o'clock. I'm home for dinner every single night. I've built my life after kids, and I've given up a lot of the travel, whatever else, to actually be with my kids. So that's easy. Before kids, on the other hand, after work on a Friday would be either at a coffee shop doing more work or studying. I'm doing my PhD right now, so I'm still studying. So after the kids go down, writing, reading. So yeah, I have a ferocious appetite for knowledge and insights and anything that can help me become a better person.
Lovely. Now, time has come. Give us your celebrity crush. Come on, William.
You know what? I'm going to say Jennifer Lawrence.
All right.
Jennifer Lawrence, because super ambitious. Super humble. Yeah. Anyone who's like just highly productive, who's interested in actually people like Jennifer Lawrence is a really good example. There's a number of kind of musicians and artists, but she's probably the most recognizable one that would be a person I would love to get to know at some point.
Okay, lovely. Great, William. It has been a lovely conversation, and I'm sure audiences would have benefited a lot out of the insights which you shared. Having said that, if they want to reach out to you, how do they do that?
Absolutely. Please do. You can find me on LinkedIn or on Instagram at William Walczak. You can find me in a number of different places, or do a Google search for me. I am not the guy that I'm ended up connecting with. There's a guy named Bill Walczak who ran for mayor of Boston at one point. I occasionally get sensitive emails that were supposed to be addressed to him, and that's how we've interacted. But anyways, at William Walczak, you can find me on LinkedIn, preferably Instagram, or just at hiilite.com. So HIILITE.com. You can find me through there as well.
Perfect. Brilliant. William, thank you so much for doing this. Yeah, I really appreciate it.
Thank you so much. These were fantastic questions. You did an absolutely great job, and I look forward to tracking your agency and your growth too.
Lovely. Sure. Thank you, William. Take care.